There's some more notes from the Eastern Cape and the Albany Subtropical Thicket, this dwarf succulent forest that occurs in the semi-arid area of Eastern Cape of South Africa. And I think what's interesting for me now is that there's been 3 months with no rain after an incredibly good bout of rainfall. So in May and June, they were way above average rainfall events. In fact, on the 3rd of June, this landscape received, I think it was an 80 mil rainfall event across 2 days, which is almost a third of its annual precipitation. And it was absolutely lush. And I've come here now and everything is just looking absolutely drought stricken. Yeah, Pensia incarnate is just brown. Zoom in here, ignore those, that's not, here's the Pensia. But what I want to point out is the thicket is often called drought deciduous. So normally the trees here are evergreen, and the reason why is because rainfall is very intermittent, can occur at any time of the year, and you have to have your leaves ready to go whenever there's rainfall events. But what's interesting is that there's been a whole bunch of leaf dieback now. So obviously with the really good rains that we had in May and June, and it's now 4th of September, so 3 months, 3 months, there's been this dieback because there just hasn't been any follow-up rain. And so thicket has often been described as drought deciduous in the literature, and I found it very strange because in the recent, from 2016 to 2020, we had a long extended drought, and you didn't see this so often, this like just losing of single leaves like this for drought deciduousness. And I was like, where does this description of drought deciduousness come from? And I think it's probably exactly something like this, where we have big rainfall events, the plants grow like crazy in response, and then go a drought directly afterwards. And so there's dieback of a lot of this new growth, but it's still trying to maintain this its leaves. But things like, I mean, look at this gruyere is looking really super unhappy. Grew a lot. I mean, all of the leaves there are looking very unhappy. And if we go and even the succulents, Crassula tetragona, I don't know if you look, is looking very, come focus please, is looking super wrinkled, and these are meant to be very inflated, fleshy leaves, and they're very, very wrinkled. If we go to something like speckbalm, I saw a specky here somewhere, Portulacaria afra, there we go. Portulacaria afra, focus please. You should be able to see how wrinkled these leaves are. So I think what's happened is that the plants, like going into winter, have this really good rainfall event. Can you see how wrinkled that leaf is? And it's super thin. Usually these are very fat leaves, and they're super thin. So going into winter, they'd have these big they had this big rainfall event, and then just this drought afterwards has kind of knocked these trees back. Like the gains they made, they've lost. And I think these are the dynamics in the system that these plants are able to adapt. They've adapted to. They've evolved this. This has been an environmental filter. I mean, they might have evolved elsewhere, and then they just had pre-adaptations to be able to get into this really unstable environment where you can get droughts for any time of year. You can see from the most recent long drought from 2016 up until 2022, there's still a lot of dead canopies out there. We had a lot of tree mortality, which is unusual. I hadn't seen dead trees in thicket for more than a decade in working in thicket, but I never went through a five-year drought. Yeah, and so during a drought like this, there's still a lot of herbivores on this landscape. I'm sure I can find evidence of herbivores. Yeah, there we go. Didn't even have to look far. Here's kudu dung right here, and there's water provided on this landscape because it's a managed game farm, and they're fenced in, where normally if there would be a drought like this, the animal numbers, the herbivore numbers would decline rapidly because there wouldn't be any water available. There was water in the rivers when I first came here in June for a month afterwards, but there's no water here anymore in the river systems, and all the animals would move off. So what I worry about is that you can see that these plants are stressing. I mean, here's Portulacaria pyracantha, and all of these leaves are dead. Come on, focus please. All these leaves they just fall off, all dead. This Gruyere has got tons of leaf loss. I mean, those leaves are severely stressed, if not already dead and dying. And if we've got herbivores on here doing damage, you know, they still need to eat and browse while these plants are stressed, that they can really put them into what we call carbon starvation, and then could ultimately end up killing these plants. So I often wonder how many of those trees died because there were herbivores on the landscape during the drought, and the drought plus herbivory was just what they couldn't handle. Anyway, just wanted to highlight this. Here's Cercia longispina, and you can also see here the level of leaf loss that's going on through here. This species actually grows its leaves and loses its leaves very rapidly in response to these drying cycles. There's another Portulacaria branch. Yeah, so just like 3 months of no rain, which is not unusual. Come on, focus in. Yeah, those aren't happy leaves. Yeah, they are dry and dead. I can see it used to be an old Crassula ovata, massive individual that's died, but that's more for that to have happened, that's like 20, 30, 40 years ago for that skeleton to be there. Okay, anyway, enough of me babbling. Leave you with a money shot. A beautiful thicket landscape that we're trying to get an ecological understanding of. Alrighty, cheers, out.